All right, we are live back on the Andre Duke Show. I got Carter Smith joining me this evening. We're going to run over some topics and see what's going on in the NFL and college football. So, starting starting the show off with Russell Wilson. Uh, where
Yep.
does he end up?
Hmm. That's a good question. Not 100% sure, honest with you. I think I think the place that makes the most sense to me, and it all depends on what Minnesota does with Kirk Cousins and how that all moves forward, right? So, if Minnesota brings Kirk back, then you have to think Atlanta is a top spot, right? But if Kirk goes to Atlanta, which is what everybody's reporting is going to happen, I think Minnesota is not a bad fit for him. I know a lot of people are on the Pittsburgh bandwagon. I just don't see the Steelers doing it. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I honestly, what do you? How much is it going to cost? Because I'm sure he'll take league minimum basically just to screw the Broncos over and make them pay him. So it's not going to be expensive. So that leads me to believe the Steelers could be in play. But like, what are you getting out of Russell Wilson at this point in his career? Like he actually was better last year, but he hasn't been, let Russ cook in, I don't know, 3, 4 years.
I would agree to that. I have heard from some people that have sourced it. I have heard that Russ could possibly end up in Chicago on a
What?
veteran minimum. That's
That
what I was told.
that would be wild. Like so, like what they draft Caleb Williams and bring in Russ,
Hmm.
and then what they're going to let Caleb Williams sit a year and let Russ cook.
That's essentially from what I was told. Somebody that did
Okay.
talk to some people said that Russ is on the table in Chicago. Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh blogs are going crazy. All the keyboard warriors are going, they're going wild for it, and I think the Falcons are flirting with Kirk Cousins just for the simple fact of they can try to keep the Fields price low.
Okay.
Be, because Chicago doesn't want to move Fields for nothing,
Yeah.
but they've got to be able to facilitate the deal somehow, in my opinion.
So in that scenario, I mean, honestly, I don't hate it for the Bears. If they were to go out and pick up Russ, it actually kind of makes sense to me because I feel like, specifically with Caleb Williams, I would, I like Caleb Williams as a prospect. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think there's a ton of red flags off the field, a ton of things that I didn't like, especially him in big games. Like as a Notre Dame fan, bro, Caleb Williams is my best friend. Like the way he played against Notre Dame this year, like, dude, that's my guy. I love him. He threw the ball to us almost as much as he threw the ball to his own team. Like, but he didn't play big in big games. He has all the arm talent, all the athleticism in the world. I don't think sitting a year behind Russ would be the worst thing for him. But how do you take that guy number one overall, this supposed generational Andrew Luck type of talent that can't miss talent, and then also bring in a Super Bowl MVP or Super Bowl champion in Russell Wilson? That would be weird. As far as Justin Fields goes, man, the more I hear about it and the more I talk to people and listen to people, the less I like what's going on with him. I thought Atlanta was going to be a slam dunk. Send him to Atlanta, send him home. He was going to run that offense. I think Atlanta is really actually would much rather have Kirk Cousins than Justin Fields at this point. And so at that point, Pittsburgh's not trading for Justin Fields. Minnesota, I would love for him to be teamed up with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. I just don't see it. And outside of that, I don't know where he's going. Like Oakland, maybe. Like I don't know. But Justin, I think, will land in a spot. Hopefully, he lands in a spot where he's a starter. My worry is that he's going to land in a spot where he's going to be a backup, and I think that will be the death of his career.
Right. I think Atlanta's the best fit for him. You send him back home. I don't think he ends up in Vegas. I think
Or yeah,
Vegas.
Vegas. Sorry.
I think Vegas would be a bad fit for him, and
Mhm.
I don't think Minnesota could get that deal done because I don't think the Bears will do business with him because they don't want to play that guy twice a year.
I agree.
And if you miss on him, you think them passing on Patrick Mahomes was bad and the fans were grumbling? That would be 10 times worse. And which Bears
Yeah,
fans are miserable by trade anyway.
yeah. I don't think. I mean, it's just like to me, it's like T Higgins. Like the Bengals aren't going to deal T Higgins within the division. Like that's just not going to happen. Like Browns fans, I want T Higgins. Trust me, it's not happening. They're not going to do that. They're not going to try to face that guy every year, twice a year. So I feel like Fields, if Cousins re-signs with the Vikings, I think Fields to Atlanta is a lock. If he
And
doesn't, I don't know.
in the only thing I would throw in there is I think it's going to be a draft day deal to move
Yeah,
Fields because
yeah.
I don't think they're going to move him before the draft because Chicago holds all the cards with they got 2 picks in the top 10. They got number 1 and number 9. And if it was me, I've heard other people say this too. Keep Fields, draft Marv, draft another wide receiver, or
Well, what they should do. Well, I don't know if this is what they should do, but what I would do in their situation is keep Fields. I think he's shown enough that he can be a viable option at quarterback. I don't love Caleb Williams the way that a lot of the like experts do. And again, I'm no expert, so maybe I could be totally wrong on this. And Caleb Williams could be the next Peyton Manning. I don't know, but keep Fields, trade down and get more picks, draft Marv, and then draft Joe Alt. Right, and
yeah,
that way, because what you need is you need to shore up that offensive line. Because the reason that Fields hasn't been able to show you what he is because he hasn't been able to stay on the field because you put hot garbage in front of him at line. So get a lineman that can be a cornerstone of your future, get a franchise wide receiver, and then see what Fields is. And if you guys are terrible again next year, guess what? You're going to have a top 5 pick, and there's some good quarterbacks coming out next year. You're not going to be hurting. So give it another year, and you don't have to give him a deal this offseason. You can wait till after next offseason to give him a deal. And if he is hot shit, and you then cut bait and move on.
right. And since we got into the draft talk, and I totally agree with you on the Fields front. He did need help at the offensive line. He had no weapons, and
I
since we
mean,
brought
this last year was the first year he had any sort of weapons, and that was DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, right? So give him another year with those two. Bring in another weapon at wide receiver. Bring in some help on offensive line. See what he is. But it's hard to do that because this will be 2 years in a row that you're passing up on the number 1 pick. And last year you could have had CJ Stroud. We saw how that went in Houston. This year you could have Caleb Williams, Drake May, whoever you want. And I don't know if they're going to be CJ Stroud in their rookie season, but if they are, and you passed on 2 possible generational quarterbacks, your fans are going to be pretty upset.
right, and since we brought Marv up about where he's going to go, is
Mm-hmm.
the Arizona Cardinals a good fit with Kyler Murray? Because I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but I do not want Marv to go to Arizona because I think the first couple years of his career are going to be handicapped with the mental cripple that is Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I don't totally agree. I think actually it is a pretty good fit. When you look at their roster top to bottom, it's not great. They have a lot of holes. They need to fix a lot of things. Kyler Murray, we haven't really seen Kyler Murray in 2 years. Okay, like 2 years ago, he got hurt towards the end of the year. He had played not very good, obviously. This year, he didn't come back till halfway through the season. He actually looked decent. And I'm not sold on Kyler Murray, and I don't think Arizona's sold on Kyler Murray at all. But Marv can be kind of that cornerstone piece that leads to kind of like kind of like Justin Jefferson, right? Like the Vikings went out and got Justin Jefferson. They brought in Kirk Cousins, and they kind of fixed some holes that they had. They're still not as good as they once were, but I think Marv fits really well in Arizona. I think he would have the opportunity to be. I think Marv's going to be great no matter where he is. Honestly, like he in the NFL, there's 32 starting quarterbacks, right? And even the worst starting quarterback on a franchise is decent. Okay, like you look at who are the worst quarterbacks in the league last year. They're still decent quarterbacks, and that's why quarterback is. That's why there's so many openings this year, or so many. There's not so many openings, right? There's not that many jobs available. And that's why it's going to be tough for Justin, because if he's not one of the top offseason moves, it's going to be tough for him to find a starting spot. Like you got Minnesota, Atlanta, Pittsburgh apparently is, if you listen to their GM, they're all in on Kenny Pickett. They think he's the guy. So Pittsburgh's not even a guaranteed open job. And then you got New England, Las Vegas, maybe. I don't even know what they're riding with. But that's about it, right?
Yeah. So you brought up New England. You brought up Cleveland. I think Cleveland is going to have some quarterback issues as well. Because
yeah. So with Cleveland, here's the thing. They don't have a quarterback issue. They already paid their guy. It's just a matter of if he's good or not. Like, there's no question Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns for the next 3 years. Like, there is nothing they can do to change that. Nobody can, unless somebody gets desperate enough that they think Deshaun's the answer. They can't trade him. Nobody's taking on that contract. They can't cut him. Nobody's taking on that dead cap hit. So Cleveland has quarterback issues, but it's not we need to find our guy. It's we have the guy we thought was the guy, and he needs to be the guy, or else we're fucked.
When you brought up New England, could Cleveland be in play for maybe possibly, because there's also stuff out there that Deshaun Watson could get suspended again. Don't know if that holds any weight. They're opening it back up, and the NFL has kind of been coy about whether they may or may not suspend him again. If he gets suspended, the Cleveland Browns bring in the fireball Mac Jones?
No. Absolutely not. No. That's I've read both sides of the story on this. There is a very small chance Deshaun gets suspended again. Very, very small, because there's nothing new that's come out. Everything that's come out has already been out. And when he was suspended the 11 games, it was supposed to be only 6, but they gave him the 11 and told him essentially, this is it. You're suspended. As long as nothing new happens, this is it. So I don't think he gets suspended again. I don't believe that's going to happen. If it were to happen, and I think this is why you've seen reports come out in the past few days that Joe Flacco and the Browns are in serious discussions about a contract. Because if there was no possibility of Deshaun getting suspended, and I don't really think there's a large possibility that happens, but if there was absolutely zero, I think Cleveland rocks with DTR as the backup, because they've already bet everything they have on Deshaun being the guy. So you wouldn't bring Flacco back, because that's just going to cause a problem. Trust me, I know Cleveland fans better than anything. And I promise you, game 1 at home, when Deshaun throws that first interception, the whole stadium's going to be chanting, Flacco, Flacco, Flacco. And nobody wants that. Deshaun doesn't want that. The Browns don't want that. But if the NFL comes out and says, hey, we didn't know about this one piece of this one court case, you're getting 4 games. Well, then they have Flacco there ready to go. So I think Flacco is their answer to the Deshaun Watson problem. I don't believe at all that they make a move on Mac Jones. No.
And I think Mac Jones has struggled in the NFL, and I think a new scenery might help him.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
Maybe develop a little bit better. And also, he had the disaster that was Bill O'Brien up there in New England.
Mhm.
So,
I think you send his ass to San Francisco or something. Let him be a backup for Brock Purdy.
yeah, Mac might have to go to the XFL or the UFL or whatever
Yeah,
it is now.
yeah, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Because
I
I
mean,
think he
shit.
needs snaps.
PJ Walker did it, and he got himself a job.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't see Mac Jones isn't going to be even a blip on Cleveland's radar. I don't think.
One of the reasons why I threw that in there is because the uncertainty with Deshaun Watson, which you are a Browns fan and you watch it closer than I do. So,
Yeah,
I mean, he could possibly, barring no suspension, but I could see it being right before the season starts, they make a move for maybe someone of that caliber if they can't get Flacco to come back.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess I won't say it's not possible. I just don't. They have so many other needs they need to address that are more immediate and like they have very little cap room. First of all, and second of all, they've got to make sure their defense has to be exactly what it was this year. Like they need to either bring Zadarius Smith back or pick up another DN that could be Zadarius Smith. They need to shore up the linebacker position. They need to have depth in the secondary because Denzel Ward, Juan Thornhill, Grant Delpit, Greg Newsome, all of them have had injury issues. So they got to have some depth in the secondary. And then you got to decide what you're doing with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's either going to restructure, and then if Nick Chubb restructures, they'll be fine with Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford being the guys. If Nick Chubb doesn't restructure, it's almost, and I hate to say it, and Browns fans will fucking hate me for it, but if he doesn't restructure his contract, you almost got to cut bait and look at the free agency market because there are so many great running backs out there right now that you could sign for less than what you're paying Chubb. Now, Chubb, I think, is the best running back in the NFL when healthy. So I would much rather just restructure it, wait for him to get healthy. Everybody's projecting like an October return. I think that dude comes back. Just knowing his work ethic and knowing him as a person, I think he comes back. Maybe not week 1, but by week 4.
Yeah, I think he'll make the first quarter of the season.
Yeah. So if he's going to be healthy, I would be shocked if he doesn't restructure his contract. I think Chubb's your answer at running back. You need to get another receiver, either in the draft in the second round, or you got to go out and get somebody. And unfortunately, right now, the market for receivers, there's not a lot out there.
And I can't remember when the Browns pick, but
I think it's 54 or something like that.
Yeah. So
it's not early.
So I think they could probably get a receiver in the second round. That's not unrealistic. They just need
yeah, and I mean this draft is deep with receivers. Like you're not going to get a Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Keon Coleman type, but there's a ton at the back end of the first round, early second round that could absolutely fall to you there. Or they have 8 picks in this draft and not a single first round pick. They could package some of those picks and move into the first round and draft a Keon Coleman or draft somebody, like that. And they aren't afraid of doing that. They like Andrew Berry has shown that he is more than willing to move picks, do whatever he has to do to get the guy he wants. So I wouldn't be shocked if they moved in the first round and took a receiver.
I think Odunze would be the guy. That's what I really think.
If they can get up high enough to get him, yeah. I like Keon Coleman personally. I like his body style. I think he would fit in with the offense very well. I think Odunze would be great. Obviously, they're not going to be able to, without selling a whole bunch, they're not going to be able to move up top 5 and get Marv. So you're looking at Odunze, Coleman. You could even get McConkley, like something like that. And because Amari Cooper is a fringe wide receiver one, right? Like he's not. I wouldn't call him like a guaranteed wide receiver one, but he's gone over 1,000 yards in every season he's been in Cleveland. He's still productive. He's getting a little older, obviously, but if you can go out there and get a guy to complement him and be like a 1A, 1B, where you don't have like a true wide receiver one, and then you add in Cedric Tillman, David Bell, if you can, Elijah Moore, if you bring him back, some of those guys, on top of having a top, I'd say top 15 tight end in Njoku, possibly top 10 if he keeps playing like he did at the end of the year, then you're talking about having some weapons that Deshaun can actually utilize.
100%, and that's a really good take on the Browns because like I say, you follow the Browns closer than I do. Here's another topic for you. What is the expectations for the booger picking derelict in LA?
You mean year one or just overall?
With the Spanos family being the way they are, I'm going to go year one because they're paying that guy a lot of money.
Yeah. Year one's playoffs. Year one, I mean, the amount of money, $16 million a year, you're paying them. You got the quarterbacks figured out. You don't have to get a quarterback. You got one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL already. Now, you're losing Eckler, but they had a good running back behind him from Notre Dame. And then you might lose Mike Williams, but you still got Keenan Allen. You still got a bunch of pieces around him. I think year one playoffs is the expectation. Like 10-7, 11-6, get a wild card. You're not expecting him to go out year one and win the West and beat and dethrone, Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? You're not expecting that. Now, overall, in the first 3 years, I think you expect to play for a Super Bowl. And that's not unreasonable. I mean, most of his job is done for him. He has the quarterback. That's the biggest piece. And then you just put some good people around him, and he brought a bunch of good coaches with him. He kind of, robbed the cupboard of Michigan and brought all the good ones with him and left all the shitty ones there. So
yeah, that is a good take. My final thought on it. I agree with you. Wild card. He's got to push for the wild card because Vegas is inconsistent. Denver is how do I say this? They are on fire in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, it's a dumpster fire.
So I mean, it's you in Kansas City, essentially a race for the top, and I guess we can move on to the next topic, which I think we kind of answered this one a little bit already. Was are the Steelers going to make a move in the free agency market?
I don't think it'll be one that's splashy. Absolutely, I think they make moves. Pittsburgh's always been really good with their free agency, right? They don't lose a bunch of top-end free agents. They go out and get savvy vets. They go out and get Joe Hayden. They go out and get guys that can impact their roster. They're not going to be out there courting Kirk Cousins. Apparently, they're courting Russell Wilson, but the GM says they've had no conversations with anybody. So I don't know if that's true. And they're not going out there looking to land Mike Williams or Mike Evans. But I think they go out there. I think if I'm the Steelers, what I'm focused on is, I go out and I get some linemen. Their offensive line has been atrocious. And I still believe Najee Harris is a good back. I think he's a great back. I think he has the potential to be a really good NFL running back. You're wasting his entire prime by not putting him on a team with a line that can block for him. He has no holes. He's not the best at shifting once the hole's not there. But I think you go out there, you get some linemen, you maybe pick up a couple defensive pieces. I don't see them making a big splashy move. No.
And I do agree with you on that. Najee, I think, is a top 10 running back in the league if he would just get some linemen, and that's
I think he has the potential to be that. I think right now you'd put him at a top 15, maybe top 20. But if you give him a line like Cleveland does a lot of things wrong. One of the things they did really well is they brought Nick Chubb in and they gave him the best offensive line in football. And that made him, in my eyes, the best running back in football. Now, you can obviously CMC, different breed, different type, but nobody can argue Nick Chubb's not a top 5 back, right? And that is all because Cleveland spent stupid money on their O-line.
Yes, they did. And the Steelers got some issues, and I think they'll sure that up. And we'll go to a hot button topic next. Do the Dallas Cowboys need to tear it all down, fire the coach, and rebuild it?
No, I don't think you have to do that. I think the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of the pieces, almost every piece, honestly. I think they found out this year that Tony Pollard is not running back one. Like, he's not what they thought he was going to be, which is fine. They didn't want to pay Zeke. Zeke, it was on the tail end of his prime as well, so that's fine. I think they go out, they bring in some help at running back. They're going to probably lose Brandon Cooks because he's a cap casualty. He's expensive. So you got to go out and replace Brandon Cooks because CeeDee Lamb is a bona fide number one. Like, I don't care what Stephen A. Smith or whoever says. That dude is a dude. He's not just a guy. All right. So I think they have the wide receiver one. Dak is – where would you rank Dak right now?
Out of 32 quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Just outside of the top 10. Because Dak is like that 12 a.m. call. You call that girl at 12 a.m. You know she's gonna answer and come over.
Yeah.
That's where I see Dak Prescott. He's just good enough to be consistent.
Okay. So you said just outside of the top 10. Let's run through it real quick. Go top 10. What are your top 10 quarterbacks? Because I think he's inside the top 10, honestly.
But it's 9 or 10. 9
Probably.
or 10.
So all right, let's run through it. So number 1, Mahomes, right?
Agreed.
Okay, number 2, Lamar.
I say no.
Yeah, okay. Who do you got at 2? Josh Allen.
Even though he has been a turnover machine, I would go Josh Allen. Okay. I would take Trevor Lawrence over Dak. I would take
Trevor Lawrence. You sure?
Yeah, I just
okay. All right. Hey, it's your top 10.
But but as far as projectability in the playoffs, I like Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs more than I would like Dak.
All right.
I think Herbert is in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So 1 Mahomes, let's say 2 Allen, then you're gonna go maybe Herbert 3, Burrow 4.
Yeah, but Joe's been hurt though. But
yeah.
But I like Joe Burrow a hell of a lot more than I like Dak Prescott.
Well, absolutely, he made a Super Bowl, so.
I like
right,
Stafford.
Burrow, Stafford, okay.
Rodgers.
Yep. Okay, there's 6. And you already said, who did you say? You said Lawrence. So okay, we're up to 7. You're taking Lamar over
Dak, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Lamar 8.
Jared Goff 9. Because he can spin it.
Okay. Yeah. And then 10, Deshaun Watson? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
CJ
Stroud.
Oh, Stroud, definitely. Okay. All right, yeah. So I guess maybe just outside the top 10. I don't know if I would have Lawrence over Dak right now, but that's just me.
Well, Trevor had a bad year.
I mean, he hasn't had that many good years. Like, I mean, he's been good, but
it's been a little inconsistent. But
yeah.
he started off on a rocky road, which Urban Meyer in the NFL was a terrible idea. I don't even want to go down that road.
Yeah, for sure.
we'll go to the next topic unless you got anything else you want to
No,
add
no,
to that.
no.
And this will be the last NFL topic, and then we're going to go college football. Will the Raiders make the playoffs next year?
No. I mean, first of all, who's their quarterback?
Aiden O'Connell.
No, absolutely not. Not a chance.
I think they'll push. I think they'll be 9-8.
Who's their
8,
running
9.
back?
Probably getting them in the coming months in the draft.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. But I think.
So you got Aiden O'Connell, an unknown at running back. Does Devontae Adams stay?
Yes, because I think if you're the Raiders, you can't trade him. And this will be. I mean, they had Josh McDaniels, which he's an uncontrollable douchebag. So
yeah,
getting rid of him.
I don't see it, especially in the AFC. The AFC is so stacked. If you don't have a quarterback, good luck.
I think that is. I mean, that is a fair point.
So here's the thing. Okay, so let's break it down. They're not winning the West, right? Like they're not going to win the division, so they're automatically a wild card team. All right. Now you're talking about you're going to be competing with Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or Cincinnati. Like those 4 teams are all going to be in the hunt. One of them is going to win the division. The other 3 are going to be in the hunt for a wild card spot, right? Then you got Buffalo and Miami, right? One of them wins the division. The other one's a wild card team. In the South, you got Houston, Indianapolis. Tennessee's probably going to be hot garbage. Carolina's hot garbage. But I think Houston's obviously a at least wild card team. Indianapolis, we'll see what they are. They were decent, and they didn't even have Anthony Richardson. So I just don't see how the Raiders, especially in their own division, they're going to be the 3rd best team at best.
The reason why I bring that up, I think the North will kind of cannibalize itself a little bit.
A little bit, but like they don't like that's only 6 of your games. You still have 11 other games. And so it's just like this year. The North got 3 teams in this year, and Cincinnati didn't have Joe Burrow for most of the year. So you're going to be talking about 4 teams that are going to be vying for spots as long as Joe Burrow is healthy. If Deshaun Watson's worth half a shit, Cleveland's going to be in the conversation. Baltimore is still the leader in the pack, and Pittsburgh never is in the conversation, right? Yeah. Even with Kenny Pickett and douchebag Rudolph. Like
that is
I don't see how Oakland gets out of the AFC in a wild card spot. Like you can't be the 3rd team in the West when the North is obviously the best division in the AFC. The East is going to have Buffalo, Miami, possibly New York if Rodgers is healthy. I just don't see a way.
I do think it's going to be tough sledding for the Raiders. So I guess we will put that topic to bed, and we will transition to college football in the kicking that off with the most talked about team in college football, the Colorado Buffaloes. I am pulling up the schedule now. How many games does Prime Year 2 win?
All right, so I looked through the schedule a little bit. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd say 6, maybe 7.
I look at that schedule, and I think the whole year hinges on week 1 with North Dakota State. Because if they lose that game, I think that sends it into.
I think they win that game though. Like I know North Dakota State's like a, fun to talk about program because who went there? Carson Wentz or something.
Yeah.
I get that, but that's not big boy football. All right. Like Colorado still plays big boy football. Now they might not play the best competition. They might not have the best players, but they play big boy football. So I'll give them a win week 1. I think they lose to Nebraska, if I'm being honest.
I think Matt Rule is going to have that team strapped up and ready to go because he can coach some football, and I think Colorado State also has that circled because that is their Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if Colorado won that, but like in Baylor, I don't know much about Baylor, but I don't think they're going to be great. UCF will be a tough game. Kansas State will be a tough game. Arizona, who knows with new coach and all that. Cincinnati, probably tougher. Texas Tech, But then Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State, those are all losses.
That's what I was about to jump to because I think Utah is the best team in the Big 12, and I think Kansas might be the second best team in the Big 12.
Kansas might win the Big 12.
That was something that right after in the notes.
Yeah.
And then we can go to the next topic, which will be the Florida Gators schedule. Who did Billy Napier piss off?
I don't know if it's the same AD that they had when Urban was there, but if it is, bro, what did you do? Like, who did you piss off? Like, whose wife did you fuck? Like, what happened? Because I see Florida starting out 4 or 5-0 and then losing the next 7. And yes, I think Billy Napier is cooked. I think it's done. I think he's out. And I think I don't know if it was the SEC gods or if Florida went to him like, hey, give us the hardest schedule possible this year, and then we'll have easier ones after because we're trying to get rid of this guy. I don't know. But they loaded them up with Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, all in a row. Like, you got a bye week before Georgia. That's nice, but Georgia's going to stomp that ass, so it doesn't matter.
And let's say Florida comes out and loses to Miami week 1.
Oh, it's they might, if they lose to Miami week 1, they might lose 10 games this year.
And that's what I was just looking at this schedule. Samford, they should win that.
That's a dub. We'll give them that. A&M, not a guarantee. Mississippi State, not a guarantee. UCF, not a guarantee.
And
like if they lose to Miami, they're going to start out 0-1. They'll go 1-1. They'll be lucky to get into Tennessee week at 3-2.
Yeah. I can't think of A&M's quarterback's name, but I watched him a little bit last night on the coach's film room, and he didn't look that bad.
No. A&M will be decent. I mean, they're obviously dealing with a new coach and all that different changes and all that. But Florida, I mean, Florida's recruiting has been decent, so they should be able to put talent on the field. But, I mean, you just look at that. They got a goddamn gauntlet, man. Like, you can't – there's no way you run through – if they get through, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. If they get through the first 7 games, 4-3, I think you count that as a win.
Yeah.
And then you got Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Like, those are all big boy programs that are, I mean, everybody outside of Ole Miss, but even Ole Miss is going to be competing. Outside of Ole Miss, those are all national championship, like, playoff contenders.
As I'm looking at it right now for the 12 team, you could possibly argue that they have 7 teams that could be in the playoff.
I mean, at least 6, yeah.
Because you got Florida State, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and I would throw UCF in there. And if A&M has a good year,
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're playing probably minimally 6 playoff worthy teams. And Florida, just so everybody knows, and Florida is not a playoff worthy team. Like, Florida has no chance of making the playoff. They are not even going to be close. And so you're talking about them playing teams that are going to be playing in the 12-team playoff. There's 6 of them for sure. Maybe you make an argument for a 7th, but 6 bona fide playoff contenders.
And
that's just brutal, man. Like I don't know who they pissed off, but it wasn't the right guy.
Yeah, and I think Billy Napier might get fired after Georgia.
They'll give him to the end of the year. I doubt they fire him before. Just if I know anything about how Florida operates, I doubt they do. Unless they have, because not to get into college basketball, but it doesn't benefit you to fire him before. Like everybody who you want to hire is still coaching. You can't even talk to him, right? Just like firing Holtman. The only reason firing Holtman was good is because it actually gave the team a shot in the arm. And I don't think firing Napier after Georgia is going to do anything for your team other than help them lose the next 4 games that they were probably already going to lose anyways.
Because this is I didn't put this in the show notes, but is now in the landscape of college football, somebody that's been on the inside of it, is firing a coach mid-season just death to the program now with the transfer portal era?
I don't know. No, I don't think so, because the transfer portal doesn't, like, they can't transfer mid-season even if you fire the coach.
Right.
So I don't think it changes anything. I think the biggest thing is, unless you have a guy like a Luke Fickell or somebody who's ready to take over the program, firing a mid-year doesn't help you at all. Right? Like, it doesn't do anything for you because you're still, like, and that's where it's different than college basketball or whatever. Like, if I fire you mid-season, let's say they go 0-1, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 3-5, and they fire him at 3-5. At 5 losses, even if you rattle off 4 wins at 7-5, you're not making the playoff.
No.
So firing the coach doesn't help you at all. So I guarantee they give him to the end of the year. If he ends up in that scenario, he would end up 3-7 or 3-9 or something. Then you fire him, obviously. But I'd say, if I had to guess, I'd say Florida goes 5-7, or probably 5-7. And if they go 5-7, he's out. It's over. Not making a bowl game at Florida is unacceptable. There's just no chance. And now, granted, they're going to have the hardest schedule in college football. Like, that's going to be the number 1 rated schedule.
Yes, it is. We will move on to the next topic, which is, does Ryan Day have to win the Natty?
Yes and no. So this year is Natty or bust for Ohio State, just based off of all the offseason moves, everything they've done to bring in talent, to bring in coaches, to fix every issue that they had. I mean, I give Ryan Day a ton of props. He went out and addressed every single issue, every single one. Like, what was an issue last year? Quarterback play. Well, they went out and got one in the transfer portal. That way, if Devin Brown's not the dude, they got an answer. Number 2, they went out and play calling wasn't an issue, but Ryan calling the plays was an issue. So they went out and they got one of the best offensive minds in college football to be the OC. They went out and they got Caleb Downs, the best transfer possible. I mean, they got Quinshon Judkins to make sure that if Trey's not healthy, they have a bona fide star behind him or sharing the load with him. I mean, they addressed every issue they had and brought back all the talent minus Marvin Harrison, right? I mean, obviously they lost Mike Hall, some other guys, but they brought back every talented person that could have gone to the draft, didn't go except Marvin Harrison. So if you're looking at it, yes, it's Natty or bust. But for his job's sake, Like, in order for him to keep his job, no, he doesn't have to win the national championship. 100%. If he goes out and beats Michigan, wins the Big Ten, goes to the playoff, he's safe. Now, if he
I
goes out, loses to Michigan, loses to Oregon, and doesn't make the playoff, I think he's in hot water.
I will second that. And the only thing I've been critical. I'm so glad that Ohio State got away from Bill O'Brien. He left because I thought that was going to be a disaster in the making. I think the expectation at Ohio State is to beat the team up north, win the Big Ten. Anything after that is gravy. So,
for sure. I mean, I think the expectation has risen. I think Urban took it to a new level. Because that when my grandfather coached, that was always all you had to do to keep your job at Ohio State was beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and then you play in a Rose Bowl. And if you won the Rose Bowl, great. Now I think that's changed. I don't think that's the expectation any longer. I think people get real tired of just beating Michigan and winning the Big Ten. So you got to be competing for national championships on a regular basis. Now, however, if you lose to Michigan 3 times and you don't win the Big Ten, then beating Michigan and winning the Big Ten is enough to keep your job.
I would say that's not out of the realm of expectations. I believe Tressel was 9-1 versus Michigan and won 6 Big Ten titles.
Yeah,
so,
he was 9-1. Yeah, and then obviously Urban was 7-0 at Ohio State.
Yeah, he got that one loss when he lost to him at Florida.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah,
he's got a room here at his restaurant here in Dublin. It's called the 7-0 room, and Zach and I like to joke, bro, 7-0 versus who? You're not 7-0 versus Michigan. You don't remember that Outback Bowl? But
yeah, and then we will keep her rolling.
Yep.
Here's the next topic. Can Texas win the SEC in year 1?
Can they? Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I mean, they have possibly the best quarterback in the nation coming back. You got a really good team. Sark seems to have that team going well. If the question was, will they? I'd say no.
I think they're going to push really hard to win it because I'm looking at their schedule now, and as far as their big out-of-conference game they have is at Michigan.
Well, and then they have Oklahoma. Well, that's in conference, I guess, now. Yeah. But yeah, at Michigan. Or is that a neutral site? It's probably a neutral site.
Let me look.
But regardless, Michigan. But we don't know what Michigan's going to be. They lost 40 super seniors, their head coach, a bunch of their coaches. Like, I don't know what Michigan's going to be next year.
Actually, it's at the Big House.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that'll be tough. I still think Texas wins that game. I think Michigan ends up with 3 or 4 losses. But I'd say looking at their in-conference schedule, because technically the out-of-conference schedule doesn't matter for the conference championship, right? Like, it's just conference record. So Mississippi State, I think they win that. Oklahoma, that's always a tough rivalry game. I still think they win that. Georgia, I bet they lose that, even though it's in Texas. I don't know. That might be tough. But then you got Vandy, Florida, Arkansas. Arkansas might be tougher than you think, but that's still a dub. Kentucky, yeah, I'd say they have 1 loss in the SEC at the end of the year, maybe 2, and that I don't know. I mean, that obviously should be good enough to get them in the championship game. So yeah, I think they have a chance to. I just don't see them doing it year 1. It's a different breed of football in the SEC, man, and they have never dealt with it on a consistent basis. Like, you're going to go through, luckily for them, they don't play LSU, they don't play Bama. You know, they miss some of the heavy hitters this year, but I still think they, in the end, they might. I would say if I had to bet, I bet they make the conference championship game, but I bet they lose it.
I was leaning towards that, but I think realistically they have a puncher's chance with Quinn Ewers
Oh, they definitely do. Yeah.
because I think Quinn Ewers is going out there to play to be the number 1 overall pick next year.
Yeah, probably.
And I guess that's all I got on that, and we can put that one to bed. We are going to transition to: does Lincoln Riley get fired at USC if he does not make the college football playoff?
I don't think so. Um, I guess it depends on how it looks. Like, if are you talking about like they go 9-3 and miss the playoff because they're number 14? Then no, I don't think so. Now, if he goes 6-6 or something like that, then yeah, he probably does. But no, I think he's a good enough coach. I think he's got a lot of friends in LA that are pulling for him and advocating for him. So no, I would be very shocked if he lost his job this year. But I think the heat's starting to turn up on him. He had the benefit of being, the guy that left Oklahoma in the middle of the night and stole Caleb Williams and took all this stuff to at USC and made them more relevant than they had been in a long time, right? But he just hasn't paid off. Like he went there, and I think he went there because Oklahoma joined the SEC. He didn't want to deal with the SEC, and I think honestly, I was expecting him to be more involved in NFL jobs this year because I don't think he wants to be a part of the Big Ten. I think he's kind of pissed that USC joined the Big Ten at this point. Like he wanted the easiest path to the playoffs every year, and that's what he had at USC. He just could never get it done.
Now, looking at their schedule, they open with LSU,
Okay, so it's an L.
Utah State,
Dub.
win, at Michigan.
I'll give it a dub.
Then they have Wisconsin at home.
Dub.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm not high on Wisconsin. I think they'll be better, but USC is still gonna. I mean, USC has talent that Wisconsin doesn't have, I think. And if their moves on defense pay off at all, then I think I think USC beats Wisconsin.
And then,
but I think
on the go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but I think it's close.
I would, because I think Wisconsin's built a lot like Utah.
Yeah.
So
they give you okay.
That's why, because I think Luke's going to run the football down their throat.
But that's not what he hired. Did he switch OCs?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
But I think that would be what would be my game plan, just to run it. I mean,
for
USC.
Sure, I would out physical the fuck out of him.
So, and then the next week, while they have a bye, then they go to Minnesota in October.
Dub.
Which I think that PJ Fleck just hide your dog.
Yeah.
Penn State at home.
I'll give him the dub because it's at home. But I think Penn State has the opportunity to be really good, so that could easily be an L.
So I think I need to see James Franklin win I need him to win a big game. I think that's because there's two teams he can't beat every year. This is a little off topic, but it's Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think Penn State has the roster to beat USC. I just don't know if they will because it's out in LA.
Now, the following week they go to Maryland.
That's dope.
Then they got Rutgers at home.
Dub.
At Washington.
I really don't know what Washington's going to be. I have no idea. Because new coach, new quarterback. Give them an L on that. I think Washington still could be good. I don't know.
Then they have what is that? November 11th, and they have like 14 days off to get ready for Nebraska.
I'll give them a dub on that.
And then at UCLA, and then
Dub.
to end it, the Fighting Irish.
Well, I can't give them a dub on that.
So realistically, we just went through USC's whole schedule. They could end up 10-2
or 8-4. Like that's kind of their threshold.
There's going to be somewhere in between there. I think if he doesn't go at least 8-4, he loses his job.
I agree. I think he'll end up more like 9-3, or I mean, who knows? He could end up 10-2. If he ends up 10-2, he's in the playoff conversation. He's safe. I think 9-3 is safe. 8-4 is getting kind of gray area, but I still think he's safe. But yeah, 7-5 or worse. I think he's definitely in conversation to be looking for a new job.
And I also think he needs to come out and do something against Notre Dame after they got absolutely embarrassed in South.
Yeah, if Marcus Freeman fucks him up again, I think there's a conversation. I don't think that. I won't say I don't think that's going to happen because I think Notre Dame's going to actually be decent. I just don't know. Notre Dame is such a wild card for me, man, because they should be good and then they're not. They shouldn't be good and they randomly are. So who knows with them?
All right. Here's the next topic. Does Utah, in its first year in the Big 12, do they win the Big 12 this year?
I'm going to say no. Now, I think that they have the best chance to. I just don't think they do. I'm big on Kansas. I think Kansas is going to be really good. I think their coach is really good. And I think Kyle Whittingham's a great coach. So I'm not slandering him. I think if Utah had Corey Dennis, they would win it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think they play for it. I would say because everybody's gotten rid of divisions, right? There's no divisions anymore.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay, so I would look for a Kansas-Utah Big 12 championship game, and on experience alone, I'd give the edge to Utah. But I still think Kansas is going to be a better team. But we'll see. I think they have as good a chance as anybody. I think they have actually probably and I haven't done this, but if you looked up the odds in Vegas, I'm sure Utah is probably the favorite to win it.
I believe they're the favorite to win it.
Yeah.
I do have one thing to add to the Big 12. Is I think the Houston Cougars are going to be better than what people think.
That's possible. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked.
Because Willie Fritz I think he's a really good football coach, and he won 9 games at Tulane, and Tulane is really hard to win at.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Houston could be good. I think it's a little early. I think it'll take a couple of years for them to be like actually competing for championships in the Big 12. But I mean, outside of Kansas, Utah, you got what? TCU, West Virginia. Is Arizona State Big 12 now?
Yes, okay. Arizona State, Arizona.
Which they're going to be as hot garbage. Kansas State's going to be decent. I think they have a really good. Honestly, I think they have a dude at quarterback. Who is the reason Will Howard left, but.
Right. I think it felt like Will got kind of pushed out the door a little bit.
Oh, he definitely got told, you're not the guy next year, which leads to a whole nother conversation about Ohio State. But
yeah, we'll have that one a different day because I think we'd be spending some time on that one.
Oh yeah, that one takes a while.
The next one I have for you, we're
kind of parlays right into what we were talking about, right? Kansas.
Yes, Kansas. How many games does Kansas win this year? Because I have their schedule pulled up, and I can run through it real quick for you. They got what is that? Linwood. Never heard of them.
Nice one.
They're at Illinois. I think that will be a tougher game than what people think because
Okay.
you got Bielema's team's going to be well coached. I mean, he's
Talking
probably
about
going
Bert?
to, yeah, he's going to have some hot dogs on the sideline. I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. He's gobbling glizzies.
He's gobbling something, that's for sure. Because that dude looks like
So, yeah. So, to answer your question, I think 10. I think 10's the answer.
because their schedule is really favorable.
Yeah.
They're at Illinois,
Yeah.
UNLV, West Virginia, trash.
TCU's down. Arizona State's trash. Houston could be tougher than you think, but it's in Kansas. Kansas State, that's going to be a rivalry game. And again, I like Kansas State's quarterback, so that one's tough. Iowa State, I think, is going to be down. BYU dub. Colorado's a dub. I'm sorry, Prime. Baylor's a dub. I think Kansas State and Houston are their two games that are really tough.
Here's an interesting thing that we can throw on the fire real quick. Could Kansas go undefeated with that schedule?
Yeah, they absolutely could. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, it's an easy schedule. They don't play Utah. They don't play a lot of tough teams. I don't think they will. Just for me, it's hard to imagine a Kansas team doing that. Like they'll stumble somewhere. A rivalry game against Kansas State, a tough away game against BYU. Even it's not that tough, but it is. It's an away game, and BYU is kind of a weird place to play. You get a bunch of Mormons and things like that going on. Who knows? But they get all their really hard games, other than Kansas State, are going to be at home. Right. And I mean, I guess Illinois could be tougher. I'm not a believer in Bert Bielema, so I don't think it'll be that tough. But who knows? Maybe they're gonna, bring out juice or whatever and bring it back to the good old days.
Or a hot dog cart, and Brett will be up. He'll be all.
Oh, bro! If they put a hot dog cart at the end of the end zone, they're scoring touchdowns all the time just so Bert can run out and celebrate and grab a dog.
Exactly. he definitely, I know we got one last topic, but he definitely looks like a dude that is going out there and definitely is wagging his finger at some donuts.
Oh yeah. For sure. Bro, I promise you, he probably goes to the local Dime a Dog night and spends at least $10 on hot dogs.
Oh yeah, he's a two dog guy. He reminds me of a guy that would get in line on Dollar Dog Night, get like 4 dogs, and then get back in line to get another rack of dogs. So,
no doubt.
I guess we haven't really done hardly any college basketball, but I guess we can't leave the Buckeyes out of it. And
we absolutely can, but we don't have to.
There was one topic I forgot to add.
Okay.
Is Mike Woodson out at Indiana?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't follow Indiana very closely, so I have no inside information, nothing like that. How long has he been there? Like 4 years?
I think 3. This is his 3rd year.
3.
And the fans are not happy.
No, obviously. I mean, the problem here's what I don't. So Indiana fans, I get because Indiana is historically. They're not a blue blood. All right, listen, I know a lot of people put them into that echelon with Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky.
Not anymore.
No, but Indiana hasn't been good since I've been alive.
The year they made it to the Final Four.
What year was it? I don't even know.
2002.
Okay, all right. So they haven't been good in 25 years almost, or like 20 years, right? And every year And so I think they give him a 4th year. I don't think they're ready to move on from him. I think they've been kind of middle of the pack the past couple of years in the Big Ten, which this year specifically, that's actually kind of an indictment on you as a coach because the Big Ten is down. I mean, the Big Ten is not good this year. Like, it's just not. Like, outside of Purdue, Illinois is decent. I mean, who else is good? Like, they're going to get the least amount of teams in the tournament that they've had since like 1998. Like, you're looking at 4 or 5 tournament teams. And
Yes.
you can't even crack that. I think he is finishing this year on the same hot seat Holtman started this year on.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I just it's because I live in, I
Yeah,
live up
you live out there. You hear it a lot more than I do. So I don't know. Maybe the fans are like, this guy needs to fucking go, and I don't doubt that he does. But unless you're going to go out and you're going to make a splash hire like Sean Miller or somebody that has proven they can win, what are you going to really get? And like, I hate that argument because as a Kentucky fan, people said that when we had Gillespie. They were like, yeah, dude, but like, who are you going to go get? It's like, I don't care who we go get. This motherfucker ain't getting it done. We'll try somebody else. Like, we're Kentucky. All right. This is not a place you go and finish 4th in the SEC. Like, that's just not what we do. And so
Right.
from that standpoint, I understand Indiana fans because like they still, especially the older Indiana fans, they still hold themselves to that high level that they were once at. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But you haven't found a coach in 20 years to get you there. So I don't know what you're going to do. I bet they give him another year. If he doesn't make the tournament next year, they probably fire him midseason like they did Holtman.
Right. I could definitely see that, and it also does not help that Dockage is all over him
Oh, I'm sure.
because I would say Dan's probably number 1 in Indy on the radio.
Oh,
And
really?
all
Yeah.
the Indiana fans tune into him, and
Yeah. And I love Dan Dockage. All right. Like, I think he is spot on. Like, he came on Columbus radio after Holtman got fired because Dan Dockage is a huge Holtman fan. Like, he loves Chris Holtman because of what Chris Holtman did for his son and his family. But he even said when they fired him, they're like, yeah, I mean, what did you expect? Like, you can't lose 17 straight road games, not win a road game for 2 years, lose every game in January every year, and expect to keep your job. Like, that just doesn't happen. So I think Dan's probably spot on, and he's way more in touch with what's going on in Indiana basketball or any basketball program than I am. So if he's saying he needs to go, he probably needs to go. But I mean, they're obviously not going to fire him right now. They're going to let him finish the year. They'll probably see what happens over the summer with the recruiting classes and all that stuff. And if he can field a team that the AD thinks is going to be competitive, they'll give him a shot to fix the ship next year. And then if they do an Ohio State where they start off hot and then they lose 12 in a row or whatever, they'll probably kick him to the curb.
right on. Yeah, I just don't see it because I feel like the seat is warm, and next year if he doesn't do much, I think it's curtains.
Oh, he's cooked. He's cooked. Yeah. You can't like has he made the tournament with Indiana? I don't
I
follow
think
them that closely.
I think his first year he made it.
Okay. So you can't go. So that means the last 2 years, like last year and this year, they didn't, right? Or they're not going to.
No.
Barring an epic run in the Big Ten tournament, they're not making the tournament this year. So
Right.
you can't go 2 years of not even making the tournament. And then if the third year, so his 4th year, but like the 3rd year of that, if it doesn't look like they're at least a tournament team, if not like a top 6 seed tournament team, then I think he's on his way out.
Right, and that is the take on Indiana. The last topic of the night: can Ohio State make the tourney?
Can they?
I think
Yes.
they can. I think
The
they
answer is
can.
yes.
I think they can if they win 2 games in the tournament.
Well, first thing, so when do they play Rutgers? Saturday, Sunday, something like that?
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. Okay. So the answer to the question, can they make the tournament? Absolutely. Again, anybody can make the tournament if they make a run in their conference tournament, but will they? No. So they're in order for them to make the tournament, they have to beat Rutgers on the road on Sunday. If they lose that game, it's cooked. They're done.
Right.
Now, winning that game, because I was just watching Rutgers, Wisconsin earlier, and Rutgers actually was beating Wisconsin by like 10 points when I came up here. But so Rutgers isn't a bad team. That's going to be a tough game on the road in New Jersey. It's going to be a tough game. And Ohio State's road struggles are well documented. But if they beat Rutgers on the road, they head into the tournament with a bunch of momentum because they've won 5 out of the last 6 since Holtman was fired. They've beat Purdue, Rutgers, like they've beat some programs. They have to win at least 2 games in the Big Ten tournament. And then I think they're a bubble team that could find their way in a play-in or something like that.
That's what I had them projected as, is maybe a 12.
Yeah, a play-in game for a 12 seed or something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely that could happen. Now, I haven't looked at the bracket, how it would shake out, but I'm pretty sure if they beat Rutgers on Sunday, they'll move ahead of Indiana in the Big Ten standings, and that would force them to not only not have the first, so they'd have a double, or they'd have a bye for sure, maybe a double bye even. And now you're talking about you're not even playing until you're playing some of the better teams in the Big Ten. I just said how the Big Ten was down. They're still not, Ohio State's still not good enough to compete on a regular basis with Illinois, Purdue, those kind of teams. So you're talking about them having to win 2 games against the higher seeded teams in the Big Ten tournament. I don't see them doing that. But if they do, absolutely. If they beat Rutgers and win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament, absolutely they're in the conversation. But I don't see them doing that.
And I would agree to that as well.
Hey, listen, I want Kentucky to be a 5 seed, Ohio State to get a play-in for the 12, to win the play-in game and face Kentucky in the first round. That's all I want. That's all I want, dude.
Lead the sheep to slaughter.
I guess. Exactly. Let them go, bro.
Yeah, and we banged out all the topics. And
perfect, man.
Yeah. Can I steal you for 5 minutes after I end the stream?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. This has been the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith, and that'll be a wrap. And I am going to end the stream, and I will talk to you in a second, Carter.
Sounds good, man. Hey, I appreciate you having me on.
No problem, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That is a wrap.
Cool.